Question 2. How do you get out of your head hitting weights you've never hit before? So that's really interesting that you would be in your head. I mean, if you're not in your head, where else are you? Just joking. Yeah, you are in your head. You kind of exist there. And a really funny thing is that if you say to somebody, where do they exist or where are they? Where is your, close personal area? Like, I'm not offended by, somebody touching my foot, but if you're touching my head, it's quite in my space. It's quite close to my existence. We kind of perceive that we exist in our head, which I haven't been smoking anything, so don't worry. Right, how do you get out of your head? What's happening when you're trying to hit a big weight is that you're having an association of risk to the weight. You might be, again, appraising it as a threat as opposed to a challenge. So that's the issue there. And you're maybe also looking at the big weight as in, I need to squat that, I need to deadlift or bench that. And that is an issue, whether it's for a PB, a 1 rep PB, or a rep max. So we can break that down. There's three things that we'll look at. And it's from a model in psychology. I think it's called the Jobs, Demand, Resources model, if I remember correctly. And the three components are perceived resources, perceived demands, and perceived importance. So if we've got these three features in your squat, your 1 rep max that you're going for, it's the first time that you've done it. Where are you going to get how are you going to change your perceived demands? Well, your demands aren't actually to squat the weight. Before you squat the weight, you have to go in and approach the bar, and you have to get very tight. You have to get your hands in the right position. You have to brace yourself. You have to do all these small things before you approach it. And what I would say to you is focus on the demands in front of you, not on the demands at the end of the lift of what you're trying to achieve. Again, similar to the last thing, small achievable things will cause you not to focus on the big thing. The perceived importance of it, you can reduce the perceived importance of something by saying, by not hanging your hat on this achievement as part of your identity. Some people do, and that's fine. And this one's kind of tricky with some people. We can't always reduce the perceived importance of a world record lift at the World Championships, for example. It's important. You might have been training for 4 years for that. But saying that, it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you don't get it. It shouldn't be the biggest part of your identity. The perceived resources are, what have you got in the bank? What have you been investing in the last, training blocks? So what evidence do you have that you can be successful? If it's your 1 rep max, what have you doubled? So if you've doubled 95 and your best is 100, does that mean that normally if you had doubled 85, you would have been able to get 90? Is your double 5 kilos less than your 1 rep max, and have you double close to that? So look at previous numbers as a source of these are my resources. So that's the model of how I would look at it, is look for something that provides a resource or some sort of evidence of you're highlighting the resources that you've built to lift that weight, and look at reducing the importance of that, but then also reduce the task demands into smaller chunks that are achievable, and that will take the focus onto what's achievable. And for coaches, that is gold dust, absolute gold dust at competition. What you want to think is, how do I increase their resources and highlight all the shit they've done that's really good? How do I reduce the demands of the lift, and how do I decrease the importance of the lift? And that is how a coach becomes a really good handler in the competition arena. Now, move that model aside, I could look at this from pre-performance routines. What you notice is that before big lift, people go out and they do all sorts of things, whether it's the process of getting wraps on, the process of sniffing ammonia, the music they listen to, how they get psyched up, those little words in the ears, the trap slap. Trap slaps are just amazing. But if you think about it, this process of getting ready and psyched up for a big lift is vitally important, because if you go to a training session, it's different from a competition. And before a competition, you find that people tend to do similar things every time they go to a competition to develop a pattern or a way that's familiar. Now, when we get a way that's familiar, we're focusing again on the small controllable things, but it's building our confidence and making us then associate that with something we can achieve. So that's called your pre-performance routine. Some people might know it as a ritual. It's not a ritual as such. From a psychology perspective, there's a number of key areas, such as readying, so physically getting ready, visualization. Maybe you might visualize how you're going to lift the bar, you might visualize getting set. Then you might have a keyword or a cue. That process of getting familiar in that and developing that, and the more experienced of a lifter are, the bigger and more elaborate that pre-performance routine will be. So again, what do you do before you do a big lift is just as important as the muscular strength that you've built up. I think as well as that is, I'd be a big fan of putting constraints in there that cause challenges at sub-maximal weights. So if your PB is 100, what are you doing to challenge yourself to make 90, 95, 97 more difficult? Is it a case of putting on bands that make it a bit more dangly? Is it a case of somebody covering the weights and you don't know whether you're going in? I think that's a brilliant one in this case, and it probably my go-to approach from a psychology perspective would be, say to your mates, right, I have I want to squat between a range of 90 and 100, whatever you're comfortable is, or whatever you're comfortable with. Get them to put bin bags over the weights so you can't see what's going on, or blindfold. Put the blindfold over your eyes, not over the weights. So that whenever you approach the bar, you have to focus on your internal process and not the weight in the bar. That's the key thing, is your internal process is more important than the weight in the bar. And whenever you remove what's in the bar because you can't see it, you're then having to really focus on that pre-performance routine, how you get psyched up, and you're going to have to approach the weights from 90 to 100 all with the same level of mental preparation. And that shows up a lot of weaknesses, but helps develop as well. The idea of how I approach this is more important. How I get control of my own head is more important. So you don't want to get in your head, you want to get control, or get out of your head, you want to get control of your head.